as a visit is start with a medieval Louvre, which is logical because this was an actual fortress in the 12th century. It was built on the western part of Paris in order to defend Paris. We had another fortress to the east called the Bastille, which was the prison. And actually we needed a fortress on the west because there was a lot of enemies coming down from the west towards the sea, down through the Seine River. We had a lot of Vikings that came down in 800 that ransacked the city I don't know how many times. So the king wanted a fortress to secure that western part of Paris. So this was what it looked like at the very beginning in the 12th century under Louis Philippe. And what happened here is what we see the whole Louvre as we see it today. So there's different kings at different periods that added new wings because at the beginning it was a fortress, so they didn't really live here, okay? And they were living across the Seine where we saw the old medieval palace. And when they wanted to leave from there, actually, Charles V was the one who actually started to make a palace out of the Louvre fortress. So he actually pierced the windows on the other sides to make it have more light in it. And he actually lived here in the 1380s. Then the next king wanted to make it even more beautiful, so they added the wing here that you see drawn the outline. And then you had Henry II that built the whole gallery that we'll be visiting this afternoon where all the Italian paintings are located. Louis XIV built this side of the wing and this one. And this whole part here was built under Napoleon I. And then of course the last addition was in 1989 with the glass pyramid that we see today. So we're now actually in the moat of the old fortress. This whole area here is where the water was stored. What we're seeing is actually the base of all of the moat and the towers that you can see here behind you. Over there is a little bridge where they had the drawbridge, which we'll see over there as well. Okay, so all of this is from the 12th century. It was renovated and excavated in the 1980s because they wanted to make the Louvre entrance and they wanted to rebuild the whole thing so the passage was and they found all this basement here, which they dug out. They found all these different things that had been thrown into the Seine River, that they had found pyrogs from the really early 1st century BC, and they excavated it and renovated it. And all of this stone is actually a true stone. What you have is blocks of stone that are stacked on top of the building. You see behind there's loads of little blocks, and what they do is build it with little rock and then make it smooth and make this nice flat stone. It was actually because the guilds and the different companies that would come and build the Louvre, and in order to be paid they had to know exactly who worked on what. And the amount of stone that a certain company would put up is the amount of money that they would get paid. So they had to sign these stones in order to understand how to do their accounts. So that's why you see the guild here with all the little hearts is one guild. So they would have been paid accordingly. So you can see actually from the behind how they would make the structure with all the little stones and then on top of that put the big blocks. Actually one piece from the great Egyptian collection that we have in the Louvre. If you wanted to see more, you would have to go up the stairs. Of course, we don't have enough time. We need 3 months, right? This is one of the most famous sphinxes that we have in Paris. It's made out of one single block of grey granite called a monolith. It dates back to the 2,000 years before Christ, and it was brought back by the French, not stolen, given again, and it has been here since.
Je l'ai entendu pleurer.
Greek statue. It's one of the only ones that we have in Paris. Most of them are in London. The Greek statues. We have Roman copies. That's why it's one of the points why it's so famous and why people are coming here. It was built in 120 before Christ, and it was brought back by a French ambassador who was in Greece at the time. It was found on the island of Milos, which is in the Aegean Sea in Greece, and it's made out of 2 blocks of stone. The first part is from the hips down, and then the other part from the hips up to the head. We don't know actually how the arms were situated, all the different shades and light really shows you like the real human body. Look at how the drapery is falling as well. I mean, you don't have the full statue, but you can actually feel that it's a real
Ce que je sais, n'oiseau pas, tu reviens, tu le verras peut-être.
I wanted to show you this sculpture too because it's a very famous sculpture. It's a sculpture of Diana, goddess of the hunt. The way you recognize all the gods, we'll see that tomorrow in Versailles, they always have a symbol. Diana always has a half moon on top of her head. She's always having arrows because she's the goddess of hunt, but also the goddess of the moon. And she was put here because this is a Henry II building, and Henry II had a favorite, a lover called Diana, and all over the castles from that epoch have Diana's sculpture or kind of a symbol because the king and Diana were lovers and greatly loved her. He was actually raised by her. They were 20 years difference, and he knew her since she was about 10 years old. So this sculpture was brought to Versailles and it was put in the gardens of Versailles because it's such a fragile and very old. This is a real Greek sculpture, another one. So it normally was at Versailles during the reign of Louis XIV, but they took it out because it was so fragile, put it here and made a copy. And if tomorrow you wander in the gardens of Versailles, you will see the copy of Diana, goddess. starting in the epoch of Baroque painting. Baroque is only sentiments, it's not like the Renaissance where everything is ordered, symmetry. Baroque is all about the feelings that you have inside. So the church was actually going through the Counter-Reformation at that time. There was Protestantism that had started in Europe, and a lot of the followers had gone from Catholicism to Protestantism. And in order to get back those people, to get back to faith, they wanted to make an architecture or a painting which showed the glories of God, and also how God could be also very human. So in the Baroque times, this was a painting that was commissioned by the church, but of course it was not approved because it's the death of Mary. And look at how Mary looks. She looks like a normal woman. The way that she's like, it seems like she's just been maybe drowned, and that was not a good way to depict the holy, Mother of God. In the 19th century, he was a very young painter, died at 30 years old. Here we have a painting that is really like very, very different from anything else, because the big paintings at that time were always solely used for the purposes of the Bible, or like there was hierarchies in art. High art was only depicting anything from the Bible, mythology, or history. Here he's painting something contemporary. This is actually what happened in the 19th century. You have a French boat that is going down to Senegal, and it's called the Medusa. And this boat, an accident happens and it's sinking. So of course, who goes first off the boat? The captain and all the really rich people, the ladies and the children. And all the other people, there was about 200 people left, and what they only had was a raft like this. And it created a huge criticism in France because nobody went out to help them. It was actually all like put down, nobody knew about it, nobody wanted to talk about it. And out of the 200 people, only 2 survived. And so they actually came back to France and wrote an article about it, which created a big havoc. Because what apparently happened on this raft is that people were starting to eat themselves. They were standing there for about 14 days, trying to feed themselves. Of course, nothing on the raft, too many people. A lot of people died, so there was a cannibalism as well. They ate each other in order to survive. This painting was really shocking at the time because no contemporary event had ever been depicted like this one. The composition is pyramidal. Sorry about my little accent. So you have like 2 pyramids here. You have one coming this way, another one coming that way. 2 of them are symbolized as 2 different things. On this left side, you have death, desperation. It's also symbolized by the old man sitting here with a dead corpse in his hand. And then you have the second pyramid with at the top a man waving at the ship